Dave here at Blueberries Games here with another edition of $20 budget magic decks. Today's deck we're going to be doing Tribal Vampires. Uh, Normally I would give a deck a pretty clever name, but for some reason Vampires, either it's overdone or overused, and I just felt like Vampires sells itself anyway. So let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. This is a tribal deck, as I said, so it's basically an aggro deck. So let's start with the one drops. First one is Pulse Tracker. All around good. You drop it first turn, go ahead and attack. You can get 2 damage off pretty much on the second turn. So I went ahead and put 2 of them in. We have 6 one drops in this deck. Next one is Vampire Cutthroat. It is a 1 to cast 1/1 Skulking Lifelinker. So it might not do as much damage as a Pulse Tracker, but it has evasion and a lifelink, so that helps you keep your life total up. Remember, this is Tribal Vampire, so we're basically doing the sucking blood theory on this one, so a lot of these things are going to do some type of damage with life gain, so that's where this comes in. So that was Vampire Cutthroat. Now for Vampire Neonate. Once again, more vampire stuff. This has no attack, but every turn you can just have somebody, each opponent, not just one person, lose a life and you gain a life. Alright, so those are the one drops. To the 2 drops. Child of Night, just a basic 2/1 lifelinker. And Bloodsucker. It pretty much says it says what it does in its name. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose a life. You don't gain any life, but anytime your opponent casts anything, you're punishing them. So there's 2 of them in there. Our 3 drop is Sky March Bloodletter. Whenever it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. See the theme here for vampires? It's pretty simple. I put a play set of those in because you want to just keep dropping them down. Not only that, but here's the other good part about it. It's still a 3 to cast 2/2 flyer regardless of what you do. So a play set of those. The other 3 drop is Narcana Cutthroat. More along the lines of just leveling up this creature is what I was trying to put in the deck, just to show people that there are other abilities out there. It starts off as a 3/2 for 3, which isn't very bad. The first level up turns it into a 4/3 Death Toucher, so basically nobody's going to block it. And then the next level up makes it a 5/4 first striking Death Toucher, so no matter what you do, he will get something dead. Balustrade Spies, the next 4 drop. It is a 2/3 flyer. Its ability doesn't fit as well into the theme, but I could not find a 4 drop that was, comparable to the rest of the deck where it was flying. I wanted more flyers for the evasion in the deck, so I went with them. And then the final creature, Bishop of the Bloodstained. This is your 5 drop. If you curve out, you should pretty much kill your opponent for the most part with just the abilities. His ability is when he enters the battlefield, target opponent loses a life for each vampire you control. You should have at this point at least 4 to 5 if you curve out. Curving out, for those of you that don't know, it means basically doing your 1 drop, your 2 drop, your 3 drop, your 4 drop all in a row. So this guy curves into it as a 3/3, and then when he enters, he kind of acts like a Grey Merchant of Ashardel that the zombies have, only you don't gain the life. But it's a pretty cool little thing. Alright, so those are the creatures of this deck. Now for the removal. Most decks I put in terrors because they're just universally good. They're instants, they're 2 to cast, and they basically hit anything, for the most part. So I put 2 of those in there. This deck has a couple of different things when it comes to its removal suite. Urge to Feed, because it's a vampire deck. It's 2 to cast instant, target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. And if you tap any vampires, they all get +1/+1 counters on them. So it's a good way to help kill your opponent's creatures and make yours grow. So I put 2 of those in there as well. Feast of Blood, another 2 to cast. It can only be cast if you control 2 or more vampires. You should, at this point, by the time you can cast this, or need to cast it, you should have 2 on the board. When you do, you destroy a creature and you gain 4 life. So, 2 of those. Some eviscerates, just plain old, just destroy target creature for 4. Some devour fleshes. This makes them choose what creature they want, but it's still creature removal for 2 at instant speed, so you do it at the end of their turn. 2 of those. Put a play set in of Grizzly Spectacles. This way you can choose which creature you want to kill. The secondary ability doesn't really help much. It could in a way, but it's just there for a 4 to cast instant that is removal. So I put a play set of those in. And the final one is Deadly Visit. It's basically the final version that I could find of any removal that was somewhat decent. The surveil part is kind of to help you if you have like land in the way. Hopefully you can kind of get that out of the way. So that is the removal suite of this deck. Now for the rares. The first one I chose was Anawan. Anawan the Ruined Sage. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player sacrifices a non-vampire creature. Obviously, it doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. You are running all vampires. To boot, it is a 4/3. So, I chose him for the first one. For the next one, I chose Sanctum Seeker. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses life and you gain a life. We are an aggro deck, so what you're trying to do is just flood the board and then basically use the abilities of all the vampires to win the game out. So, I went with the Sanctum Seeker. The third one is Malakir Blood Witch. It has flying, protection from white, and that means that a lot of removal spells can't be used. When Malakir Blood Witch enters the battlefield, an opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control, and you gain life equal to that. So it is basically the same thing as the 5 to cast that's in the deck. It makes them lose life equal to the vampires you control, but only this time you get to gain it. And then In Garrick's Wake was the special card I chose. I put this in a lot of decks just because it's removal. It's mass removal on your opponent's side and does not affect you. It is also a foil. Alright, now for the lands. We are a monocolor deck, so it's mostly swamps. However, when you get down to the special ones, we get a little bit different. So, I went with Mortuary Mire. The Mortuary Mire is more for recursion of your creatures in hopes that you get back one of the ones that lets you gain deal damage to your opponent and you gain life. So, 2 of them go in there. Polluted Mire, because if you get land late in the game, sometimes you don't want it, you want to cycle it, you can go ahead and cycle it. And then my stereotypical fetch land for cheap. So I put that in every single deck, just because you need to get it out of the way. So, that is Tribal Vampires. We'll go ahead and take a small little gander at the deck. So, that is Tribal Vampires, available at Geekfest. Thank you for watching.